Okay, this is 10.2 multiplying polynomials. Okay, before we get started, let's just review something here as far as the distributive property goes. So if I told you to distribute this -5 to both terms on the inside here, okay, you would just be multiplying 5, whoops, let me just get this in pen mode here. You would just be multiplying -5 times 6x, and you would also multiply -5 times -3. So your first term, -5 times 6x, is going to give you -30x. And your second term is -5 times -3, which gives you +15. Okay, these are not like terms. You can't combine them. Okay, one has an x and the other one doesn't. So this is your final answer here after you distribute. Okay, keep in mind here that you're distributing the -x to both terms on the inside. You're distributing to a binomial. There's two terms in there. All right, so you're going to multiply 5x times -x. Keep in mind that there is a invisible -1. That looks terrible. There's an invisible -1 next to this x. So really you're saying -1 times 5, which is going to turn into -5. Okay, then you have x times x, and you're going to keep the base the same, and you're going to add the exponents. Both of those exponents are currently a 1, and when you add them, you have 1 plus 1, which gives you x to the second. Okay, then you're multiplying -x times -8. Double negative turns into a positive, and 8 and x is just going to be written as 8x. Okay, these you cannot combine. Even though they both have an x, one has an exponent of 2 and the other one has an exponent of 1, so they're not like terms. Okay, so keep in mind that when you're multiplying like bases, you're going to add the exponents. Okay, and here's an example for you. If you have y squared times y to the third, okay, the base is y, that's going to stay the same, and then you add the exponents, 2 plus 3, which gives you 5. Okay, we've done that in the past, but you're going to need to use that today. All right, so we're going to start off with distributing here. I'm going to distribute this x on the outside to all three terms on the inside. So I'm going to multiply this trinomial by x. So once, twice, and 3 times. Okay, so you're doing x times 4x squared. Okay, so you're going to keep that 4 the same. Okay, the base is going to stay x, and the exponent is going to turn into a 3. Okay, keep in mind this has an exponent of 1. Okay, all right, and then you're going to do x times -2x. That's going to give you -2x squared. And then x times +3 is going to give you +3x. Okay, from this point you can look and see if you have any like terms, but you don't. Okay, yes, they all have an x, but they all have different exponents. Remember, like terms have to have the same variable and the same exponent. Okay, so for this one, you're distributing here from the back this time. Okay, so -3x cubed is what you want to distribute to the trinomial. So you're multiplying 3 times all the way through. Okay, and we'll start all the way down here. Okay, we're going to go -3x cubed times 4x to the 4th. So you're going to multiply the numbers first. -3 times 4 is going to give you -12. Okay, like bases are the x's, so it's going to stay as an x. And then you're going to add the exponents 4 plus 3, which will give you 7. Okay, then we're going to go to this middle term here. Actually, cross that out. Okay, we're going to go to this middle term here. We're going to multiply -3 times -3. Okay, that gives you +9. And then you have x cubed and x cubed. So the x stays the same, and you add the exponents, so you get 6. Okay, and then the last one is -3 times +8. That's going to give you -24. And then you have x cubed times x to the second, so you're going to keep the x the same, and then add those exponents, you're going to get it to the 5th. Okay, there's nothing alike here, so this is going to be your final answer there. Okay, so let's talk about the FOIL method. You might have heard of this before. we're going to see problems where we're going to use the FOIL method. Okay, we're going to be working with the first term, the outer term, the inner term, and the last term. Okay, FOIL comes from the first letter of each word. So you have F-O-I-L. So it's just a way to remember how to tackle a problem that looks like this. So you have two binomials. You're going to multiply them together. We're going to use that FOIL method to do this. Okay. Really what you're doing is distributing twice. You're really distributing this x and this 1 to this binomial here. Okay, but let's talk about FOIL. Okay, when we say first, we're talking about multiplying the first terms in each binomial. So the first term in this binomial is x. The first term in this binomial is also x. So I'm gonna multiply x times x. Okay, x times x gives me x squared. Okay, then I'm going to multiply the outer terms. Okay, so I have an x on the outside of this binomial and an x on the outside here. 2 times x, or x times 2, gives me positive 2x. Okay, then I'm going to multiply my inner terms. 1 times x gives me 1x. You don't even have to write the 1 if you don't want to. And then you're going to multiply your last terms here. 1 times 2 gives me a positive 2. Okay, now if you look here, you can see that these terms that are on the inside, they can be combined. They are alike. You have 2x and 1x. If you put them together, you're going to get 3x. Okay, it's a positive 3x. And then the x squared, that's going to drop down into your answer. So will the positive 2. Okay, then there's nothing else that's alike. And this is going to be your answer here. You're going to see that these middle terms, when you're foiling, they're always going to be combined. They'll always be like. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. All right, so if you multiply your first terms, okay, this is the first term multiplied by the first term of the other binomial. 2 times 2 gives you 4. X times x gives you x squared. Okay, let's do the outer term. 2x times 1 gives you positive 2x. Let's do the inner term. Negative 3 times 2x, that gives you negative 6x. Okay, and there's those two terms again that are alike. And then you have negative 3 times 1, which gives you negative 3. Okay, and then you got your center terms to combine. Positive 2x minus 6x is going to give you negative 4x. And then drop down the 4x squared. Also drop down the negative 3. And there's nothing else to combine. So that's going to be your answer for that one. Okay. All right, so take a look at this. It is a binomial multiplying a trinomial. So when we're tackling a problem like this, you can't FOIL. You can only FOIL if you have two binomials, the way we did the last two problems. So in this case, you're just going to distribute. You're going to start off distributing the x to every term in the trinomial. Okay, so I'm going to multiply 3 times through. I'm going to multiply everything by x right now. So I'm going to have 5 times x, which is 5x. X times positive 3x, which is going to give me 3x to the second. Okay, be careful here. You really have to pay attention to your rules. And then x times x squared is going to give me a positive x to the third. Okay, then I'm going to take this negative 2 and I'm going to distribute it to the trinomial. So I'm going to multiply this all the way through. I'm just going to continue my answer here because at the end you're going to see we'll have like terms to combine. Negative 2 times 5 gives me, whoops, that should be a negative. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Negative 10. And then negative 2 times positive 3x gives me negative 6x. Negative 2 times x squared gives me negative 2x to the second. All right, and then I'm going to look here. I'm going to identify everything that's alike. So I have a 5x here. I also have a negative 6x here. I can put those together. That's going to give me negative x. Okay, I'll cross that out here. Then I have a 3x squared. I also have a negative 2x squared. When I put those together, I'm going to have x squared. I'm going to write this in the front, and I'm going to tell you why at the end. Okay, so I have x squared here. Cross those out. I have x to the third here. There's nothing to combine with that. I'm going to put the x to the third in the very front. Okay, and then also here, have one thing left over, my sloppy negative 10. My negative 10 is just going to get put in the back here. Notice how I'm using the sign with the number. Okay, this is going to be your final answer. It can't be simplified any further. There's no more like terms, but I wrote it in descending order, the 3 being the highest exponent, then the 2, then the 1, and then this one doesn't, well, it has an exponent of 1, but it's in descending order here, and this would be considered a third-degree polynomial. Okay. All right, so let's do this again. This is the last problem in the lesson, so let's do this one more time. Okay, so we're going to take this 2x and we're going to distribute it all the way through. Okay, the whole thing has to go into this trinomial here. So I'm going to start over here on the end. 2x squared times 2x is going to give me 4x to the third. Then I have 2x times negative 4x, which is going to give me negative 8x squared. 2x times 6 is going to give me positive 12x. And I'm going to take this negative 5, I'm going to distribute it all the way across to each term in the trinomial. So I have negative 5 times 6, which gives me negative 30. I have negative 5 times negative 4x, which gives me positive 20x. And then I have negative 5 times 2x squared, which gives me negative 10x squared. Okay, so I'm going to put things together that are alike. 4x to the third, there's nothing alike with that, so I'm just going to put it on the end here. Then I have x squared and x squared here. Negative 8 minus 10 gives you negative 18x squared. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, cross those out. Then I have the 20x and I have the 12x. So to add those together, I'm going to get 32x. Okay, cross those out. And then the negative 30 is the only thing left. Okay, it's going to get tossed in, and there's nothing to combine with it. These are not like terms, but they are in descending order from biggest exponent to smallest exponent. And this is going to be the end of the lesson.